Welcome to Kick Back with Chris. Kick Back with Chris, the martial arts podcast.
Brought to you by Martialytics. Easy to use, super powerful management software for your martial arts school.
Right, guys, so joining me now for the very first of our new episodes, Mr. Donovan Wint. That's the crappiest intro I've ever done in my life, but I've just cancelled the call, pressed the wrong button. He sat there giggling, I'm laughing. Jeez, what a mess. What a way to start the first of the new podcast. But welcome back.
Hello. I never know what to say for that bit. That's always the most awkward part if I'm on a podcast. I don't know what to say back.
The first bit is the hardest bit. It's the hardest bit when you're the host as well, because what I typically do is go, hi guys, or hey there, or it's like I say the same thing every time. And then when I purposely try to say something different, I just sound like an absolute idiot. Hello. It's like, no, that sounds stupid. Okay, no, that sounds stupid. So I just say, oh, hi guys, or hey there, how's it going? Anyway, so how are you doing? You good?
I'm very good. I am. Yeah, things are going very well. Very busy though. So, I feel like every positive thing that happens, it just creates more problems and then more problems. I still tell people that I'm a professional plate spinner because that's what it feels like. It feels like
that's it.
Fix one thing and then fix another. How have you been?
I'm all right, yeah. I had a bit of time away. I needed to, as I've alluded to on the other podcasts and talked about it, I broke myself and then wasn't ready for what it feels like. I mean, I'm a pain in the ass. Everybody knows for more than one reason, but I'm not in a happy place or a happy person unless I'm training or being physical. And I have 2 weeks off at Christmas, and that's it. I don't do holidays. And even the 2 weeks of Christmas, I still come in because if I don't punch and kick stuff for 48 hours, I get withdrawal. So it's checking around and shit. And I just have to keep going all the time. And then obviously I did my knee and I had to stop, and I wasn't ready for what it would do to my head. Because since my late teens, 17, 18, I've been doing this 5-6 days a week. And it's all my body knows, all my brain knows. And I stopped. The first couple of weeks was all right. The first month was I was like, this is all right. It's not doing stuff. And then my head imploded, literally. And I think it must have just been like a chemical shift or something. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not but obviously we all know that when you're training, you get that dopamine hit and you get all the chemicals and, all that sort of stuff shifts in your head. And I think all of that switching off just...
I think I can relate, to be fair. See, when COVID first hit, I obviously was training for fights all the time. So I was training 6 days a week, 7 days a week. It was my whole life. I barely saw my family, to be fair, which isn't a positive. And then when COVID hit, I had a nice month or two where I was actually, this is lovely. I'm seeing my family. I was sitting down. I don't have to think about training. I don't have to think about a fight that's coming up. And then it hit a point where I just felt I don't know. Now that you're talking about that, it's only just made me think about it. I don't know, I was just a bit more bitter and just a bit more, I don't know, just not myself.
I don't know if you saw it. It happened to me. The first thing that I did, right? And these people will attest to this. The first thing I did when we were allowed out after COVID and we started doing events and things again, I actually did it at one of Gordon Bircham's events, one of the big things that he does. I couldn't go to the whole thing, but I went to day 2. He said, "Oh, just call in and if you want." I was like, "Okay, that's cool, cheers." So I called in, and for the first 5 minutes, I just went round all the people that I'd fallen out with on Facebook over COVID. And I said, "I'm really sorry, mate. It's nothing personal. I was just being a bit of a dick during COVID because we were all stuck in our houses, and I couldn't hit people, and I couldn't. It's not like I could my kids weren't big enough, and you know what I mean. It was like." No. I had nothing to do. I literally had a punch bag in the garden, and that's all I could, And so everyone and their cat got it on Facebook. Everyone got it, and I look back on it now, and it's so embarrassing. But I think a lot of people suffered in that respect. They didn't have that outlet, that physical outlet. So they just got into arguments with everybody about everything.
When you say you didn't feel good, what was it? Was it were you itching to train? What was the feeling
Initially, yeah. Initially, this is like a counselling session. Initially, it was, it was that feeling of just wanting to do. It felt like I was letting myself down. I put all this work in, and so initially I was doing stuff like I was doing loads of pull-ups, I was doing loads of body weight stuff, but as the injury sort of progressed, I didn't even realize how much you need your knee for everything. Like I couldn't even do sit-ups or like shadow boxing because every little thing went. It just all goes to your knees. Even like on I got the pull-up bar out. I've got one of those stand-up ones you can just click together, and even just doing that, it puts strain through your knee. And I'm like, can't even do this. Like it ended up I couldn't even get out of a chair at its worst point. So initially it was frustration, and then it went the whole of the other side where I didn't want anything to do with it at all. I didn't want to watch films. I didn't want to watch UFC. I didn't want to watch boxing. I didn't want to do anything martial arts related. I didn't want to know, which is why I had to sack off the podcast because it was fake. Not only was it doing my head in because I didn't want to talk about it, but it just seemed like a massive lie. Hey, welcome to the podcast that I don't care about. And anything you're talking about, couldn't care less. I'm looking at my watch thinking, is it home time yet? So I just sort of shifted all of that energy and focus into other stuff. So all of my other little hobbies all became extremes. And unfortunately, one of my hobbies became arguing on Facebook. Because it was just there. It was accessible. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just how it goes, isn't it? But thankfully, that's ancient history now. We hope. Unless somebody can think up a way to engineer another one. Oh, geez. Imagine if in years to come it turns out that was all just one giant experiment to see how the human race would.
Well, if it was, they would have got us good because a lot of people heavily believed it. So
yeah,
pretty good if it was.
Yeah, I know what I mean, but it's just one of those because we never really know, do we? I mean, yeah, obviously COVID was a thing because I got it and it wasn't nice, and I saw other people get it and it wasn't nice. And obviously, joking aside, for some people it was, it was super serious. It was at the end. So it's not that it didn't exist, but it's like how bad was it really? And it's like we'll never know, do it. You put your trust.
Two of the things that confuse me about it, because obviously I can't say for sure, but two of the things that confuse me about it is number one, how countries like Sweden just didn't shut down at all. They didn't. And then number two, at the same time as people couldn't go see their nan's funeral and stuff like that, the party that were running the country was and they have access to all the data. They're the ones telling us about the data. So I don't know. It's just it's a bit crazy that the people who've got access to all the facts and all the statistics aren't scared of it.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? It doesn't make you.
I love how this is going to be an open conversation, right?
Yeah.
You said that's what this is going to be, and your first topic, hard hitting, was COVID.
Is COVID fake? Hey, at least we're not talking about aliens or lizard people yet. It'll end up. I'll have somebody on it. It'll end up going down that route. But yeah, just to bring it back to the start again, just to put a bit of a break on that before it gets too political. For the listeners that are joining us now, the whole idea behind this podcast is I want to have martial artists on the podcast, but I don't want the whole center of every single conversation to be about martial arts. And that's not because I'm still not interested, quite the opposite. I just want to bring another side of all these people. Loads of people know who you are, either from your fighting career or from your Facebook marketing and that side of things. And I'm going to have all sorts of guests on from martial arts backgrounds, but I just want to bring a bit of, it's not that you're all lacking personality, but people will hear the same thing because you've all got your expertise, and people want to know about that side of things, whether it's the fight career or whether it's the Facebook. And there's more to you than punching and kicking people in the ring and pressing buttons on Facebook.
No, completely. I think that's more interesting as well because, if I listen to a podcast of a business coach talking, 60% of the stuff they say is probably stuff that I've mentioned as well. If I listen to someone who comes on talking about Google Ads or something like that, 60% of the stuff they say crosses over with me and the business expert. And then you have martial artists come on, you ask the same sort of questions, and it can feel a little bit repetitive. I like the idea of having more of an open conversation and just
yeah.
anything.
So yeah, COVID then. No, I'm joking. So we were actually gonna lead with the question, because this is something we'd been bouncing back and forth over Facebook. This, just to explain, this guy was sort of at the brunt of me throwing ideas back and forth, and you'd been pushing me for a while to do a format like this. So you're kind of partly to blame. If nobody likes it, it's your fault.
But
No, I'm joking.
as long as you like it, that's all that matters. I didn't say everyone else would. I just said you'd enjoy doing
I
it.
know. You're right. And I do, and it's better. But one of the conversations that we've been having was the topic of, martial arts and what does it mean to you as an individual and to me. And I just thought that'd be an interesting conversation because, full disclosure, you can probably see from my nice new super high def camera that shows my entire room, which I've had to tidy, which is a pain. Like finding random flags to cover up piles of things. And that banner is just to hide the computer because I don't have time to tidy it up. The big version of it's big me there. But yeah, we are actually. How old are you now? If you don't mind me saying.
I'm 23.
Yeah, so I'm coming up 44. So there is pretty much half a yeah. Oh, that's depressing. So it'd be interesting to see, what similarities are there? What, is there and obviously we had very different career paths. We ended up going down different routes with it. So I'll let you start. What does martial arts, what is it to you, and how has it influenced you?
So it's kind of hard because my perspective on martial arts as a whole has definitely shifted since I went into the business side of it. So it's not really easy for me to put the same head on that I had when I was just fighting. So if I do look back to when I was just fighting and I didn't have look into the business side of it, and I didn't have I've got thousands of martial arts school owners who I connect with on Facebook. I see so much martial arts now, so I feel like my idea of it has grown. But if I talk back to when all I was a full contact kickboxer, just fighting, I can tell you for a fact that I looked at full contact fighting as the pinnacle, like the top. And anything else, such as points fighting and things like that, when I looked at them, it just didn't seem like real martial arts to me. And that's just me talking honestly. As a fighter who was fighting full con, when I used to look at points fighting and stuff like that, I used to look at it and I just used to be like, well, that's not going to protect you on the streets and things like that. And I'd say that, well, I'll let you say what you think.
Yeah.
My horizon and my ideas definitely has grown since then. But when I was just a full contact fighter, I used to look at other martial arts and I used to think, well, that's not applicable if you wanted to protect yourself, or that couldn't do this, or that couldn't do this. And I don't know, I feel like when you're so deep into one martial arts, you kind of get, I don't know about everyone else, but I kind of got negative about other martial arts.
It's easy to do. It is easy to do that. I mean, it's really interesting that, because for me, when I was a little bit younger than you, but around that sort of time, early 20s, I'd started working full time, doing this, but my full focus and my ambitions and aims were completely on the performance side. So it was all film work, it was all stage work, it was all throw myself around the gym like some Power Ranger on speed. It was if I'm even allowed to say that on iTunes, I don't know, but anyway, that's kind of what it was like. I was just jumping around, kicking and spinning and flying around, and competitions were never on my radar. Not fighting anyway, because when we were kids, we used to when we were little kids, we did the fight team and we did the tournaments and stuff, and they're standing around all day, I loved sparring, and in fact I like it more now, but all I remember is the negative of standing around, losing your fight, going home. And I hated it. And I got this idea in my head that I wanted to go off and do all these films and all this sort of stuff, and as you do. And so that kind of the sparring went out off the radar completely, because the worry of getting injured and not being able to do something was not like I got paranoid. Anyway, fast forward now all these years, it's now the other way around completely. So I can't get enough sparring now, but now I'm old and broken, and it's just, you know what I mean? And I have to be, so now I have to be careful, but I can't get enough. So it's weird how it sort of changed, and my focus has shifted as the years have gone on.
I used to love sparring. That was literally all I was into: sparring, fighting, and that was just that was just my passion, and that was just my love. Like everything else, realistically, as far as training wise, I just wasn't as interested in. What did you think about other martial arts, like outside?
Oh, I
of
loved it. I because I was so transfixed and focused on emulating all the different people that I saw in films and TV, it didn't look anything like the slightly ropey taekwondo I was doing. It didn't look like that. So I
I think
needed to do as much as I could get hold of to be able to copy all the stuff that I was seeing them doing. It didn't look like what I was doing, and so I was like, right, I need to learn this, I need to learn that. It's crazy. I was going out and buying books, and this is the like dial-up internet days where you had to wait like 3 years for a video to download, and so I was downloading videos, buying books, buying VHS tapes, and trying to go and train in other schools, and I loved
that's
it. I couldn't
probably,
absorb enough.
that's probably one of the differences though between like my sort of age range and your age. Like I don't really remember martial arts films. Like I remember like some of the new Rocky films that came out, like Creed and stuff like that. But I feel like people of like my dad's age, like they were I remember my dad drawing like people throwing kicks and writing about like some of Bruce Lee's like philosophies and stuff like that and being into it. And that's not something I ever remember really being into. But I know that when I speak to people older than me, they talk about the films that they grew up on.
Yeah.
They talk about, and that's not something that I was ever like. It weren't happening as I was growing up. Like there's people my age who their parents showed it them and stuff like that, but it weren't something that was. It weren't. How do I say it? Like it weren't a thing that was just happening
No.
as I was growing.
No, it wasn't an influence. It wasn't there. No, and I think that was, my generation, sort of growing up in the 80s, it was, put it on and watch them, it's fine. And I think society shifted through the 80s and into the 90s, and it was a bit, people are a little bit more careful. Like I remember there was a period where parents were terrified to let the kids play violent computer games because they thought they were going to all turn into mass murderers and go off and, commit all these horrible crimes, which I'm no doubt that they are an influence on a small percentage of people, but you're not going to play Mortal Kombat and then go and start ripping people's spines out in the playground. But there was a period in the early 90s when everyone was really hot on it because it was all on the news. So I think it that sort of filtered down. But I remember as a kid, like watching Karate Kid on TV and like waiting till my dad went out and like putting Bruce Lee films on and stuff like, we weren't really supposed to watch him, but he's gone out now, so I'm watching. All stuff like that, and like Best of the Best, and these are probably all alien. You don't even know what I'm talking about. You should go and watch them. Like Best of the Best, all these classic 80s films. Obviously, Cobra Kai is a thing now, big time, and that's obviously spawned from the original Karate Kid trilogy. We ignore the full film. So I think that is now sort of revitalizing it a little bit, because like my nieces and my kids are watching Cobra Kai, and then so what's the story with the older ones? It's right, well we'll sit and watch it and get the old videos out, and they're like, Dad, this is crap. No, it's old.
That's one of the things that annoy me. So I struggle, I think because I've fought, I struggle to watch movies with fighting in. Like if they're not throwing their hand, turning over their hand properly when they're throwing a punch, or they're hitting the bag and the punches are just crap, and this person's supposed to then go on and win and become world champion and stuff like that. That stuff annoys me, and I feel like it's because I wasn't brought up on those films. Like I don't know if it's just got a lack of imagination when it comes to that stuff, but it annoys me when I watch a film and the person's not throwing the kick right and they're not throwing the hit right. Like I don't know why, but it just really bothers me. So I struggle to get into films like that.
I suppose it would, because you're looking at it from a different perspective. It makes sense. So you're talking about obviously your fighting career. Am I right in thinking, did you take a break? Did you stop training for a while and then you've gone back to it, or have you always just carried on training?
No, so I was fighting up until COVID. Then COVID hit. Then just before COVID, I'd started like business and whatnot. And then when I went back, I tried to do business at the same time as training, and training for a fight and trying to keep clients happy and things like that is not something that's very easy to do. So, for example, I'd be running and I'd be thinking about my clients, or I'd be on a business meeting or something like that, and I'd be thinking about the fact that I'm not training enough, and it just wasn't working very well. And then I had one fight after COVID, and it was an incredibly tough fight because I just hadn't trained very much, and I struggled to get back into it as well. I think because I spent 2 years sitting around, that was that. In fact, that was something that really messed me up. Like, I didn't have the same passion for fighting when I went back. Like,
Right.
I think one of the things that I did genuinely was when I was fighting, I always wanted to get into the UFC and I wanted to be famous and make loads of money. I think because Conor McGregor was my original motivation. And then when I've realised that you can make money in business and without getting punched in the head, then I don't know. I feel like that kind of shifted and kind of changed.
Yeah. I mean, if you look to a certain degree, I suppose there's some parallels there in what he's done. If you think where he came from, what was he like? I mean, I'm not. If anyone's listening to this, don't take offense to this. I'm not saying he was only a plumber. Was he a plumber? Or was he carpenter or something like that? Wasn't he?
He was a plumber, and then he went on to benefits. And
that's right.
And then obviously went on to be world champion. I find that McGregor really inspirational, and then he kind of fell off.
And then the current one.
I think it's two different people, to be honest.
Sometimes I see him, and I wonder if what we're getting is like a pantomime version of him. And when he's at home, and when he's genuinely at home, and everything's switched off, and if he's just normal, and he's just got to a point where he's almost developed like a bipolar situation where he doesn't know where pantomime Conor McGregor switches off and where actual real normal. I mean, or maybe I'm talking shit and he's pulling all the strings on purpose because he's making a lot of money doing an awful lot of nothing.
I think he's just got issues. I think anyone who gets that famous and that rich that quickly and is used to everybody speaking about him, and like, remember when were you into the UFC when he like knocked out Jose Aldo? Yeah, so
that was crazy.
When that happened, like he was everyone was talking about him, and then to go from that to now, like no one speaks about him until he's in the news because he's done something stupid. Like I think
your granddad at the pub or something.
Yeah, I think it just. I imagine having that much fame and that much influence and everyone talking about you to just go to no one speaking about you. Like, I don't know, I feel like that would really mess you up. So that's why I think he overreacts so much and overacts because he wants to get back in the limelight and grab everyone's attention again.
I think he'll fight again.
Do I think he'll fight again? I don't think he'll fight very well again. He's a completely different fighter, isn't he? When he fights now, he just looks so stiff and like tight, and he just doesn't look very comfortable. As when he used to fight, he used to be like really loose and like and throw good like crazy kicks and pull back and hit people. Now when he fights, he just stands there like a rock and just walks at people. So I can't see him fighting very well again.
Yeah, because I seem to remember that he didn't have an ankle or a foot injury or something. He'd been carrying for a very, very long time. That he's got sorted or something now, was sorting his leg out, but. I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? Because you watched him in the Cowboy fight, and it was like, wow, he's back. Like that cheeky little shoulder thing he was doing. It was like, that was badass. Everybody was in the gym trying that out the next day. Like, but that fight was just like, whoa, where did this come from? It was like, and then he was back, and then COVID hit, and then it's like, that just screwed that up, didn't it? But. Yeah, I mean, I'd find it interesting, especially with the older fighters. Just to, I mean, you look at the likes of. This is where I'm going to look so unprepared because I'm terrible. I'm genuinely terrible at remembering people's names as it is. Stephen Thompson, Wonderboy. He's like, I think he's a year or two younger than me. That's nuts. That's nuts. Be like 41, 42, and still be fighting at that level. And still be within a championship title shot.
Do you know what I find crazy about like martial arts in general? That every 5 to 10 years, the champion just looks a million times better than the champion 10 years ago. And it's like people are forever evolving, but to a level where you couldn't even imagine Like it's always like the most recent champion just blows the old champion completely out of the water. And you look at the style, you look at the way they fight, and it just looks like a completely different species compared to if you look back. If you watch the MMA like 30 years ago, like
Oh yeah.
the way they fought, like some of them just look like they've just walked out the pub and stuff. And then you look at people today and nowadays, and they just look like animals. But then in 30 years' time, you think, are they going to be that much better that you'll look at the fighters today and think, what were they playing at? Like, I find it crazy how it's like forever evolving.
Well, yeah, if you think where they're going to be in the next sort of 10, 15 years, because these are going to be the kids that have started from sort of 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with a minute, we're still getting people filtering through that. It's not that it's necessarily a bad thing, but they'll have started in something else and then transitioned into it. Now you've got kids that are starting at like, super young. And now I know these people have got ideas about whether that's appropriate or not, but to each their own, and they're doing their own thing, and they're going to do it anyway, regardless. And if it's not done organized, aren't they? Let's be honest. They're going to get fighting somewhere if they can't get it where it's organized. But I just think it's, as you say, it's going to be really interesting to see how it evolves. But what have you seen any of the Karate Combat series? Then have you been watching any of that?
I haven't been watching it, but I've seen.
You should do.
Is it good?
It's really good.
Is that what did? Was there a fighter called Uriah Hall who used to do that? I swear he did.
I don't know if he did it. Now you've got me on there. As people screaming at their phones as, yeah, of course you did. Yeah, you should know that stuff. I don't know everything about everything in martial arts, but obviously. But I don't know. Did he or did he not?
What are the rules for that?
But it's rules. They're kind of changing. Like they're modifying them as it's sort of settling in. But basically, it's in like a pit.
I've seen the pit, yeah.
So if you think like karate fight, but it's like full contact. So it's like basically like stand-up UFC, but they can strike them when they're on the side of the pits. So they can, if they're laying on it, they can do 5 second. I think it's 5 second ground and pound. So if you do like a throw, you can hit them on the ground for 5 seconds. It's really cool. It's kind of like if you imagine a stand-up UFC fight without any of the grappling. So
can you throw leg kicks?
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting. So what's to stop someone who's like a Thai boxer from just throwing leg kicks? And
there isn't really. So they did there's probably loads of people shouting at the things like talking shit, but that is what they did a series called Kumite. It was on YouTube, and it was basically it took fighters from all over the world. They just like without contracts or anything, and just put them in to like fight for a contract. And it was really interesting because you had some people that were pure karate, like Olympic karate fighters. Then you had some that were like local kickboxers that did a bit of Thai boxing, did a bit of full contact kickboxing, did a bit of all sorts. There was one guy that was like, I think he was retired. I don't want to get I don't know what he was. I don't know what he did, but he was retired forces of some sort. And he hadn't actually trained or fought for over a year. And he just went straight in with a week's notice and did it.
Did it go very well?
It went all right, actually, because he was just hard as nails. Just went steamrolling him like.
I thought you were going to say he just got knocked out with just first.
Just literally the kid he was fighting. The kid he was fighting was he was like some sort of like top level karate guy. So good at what he did, but I don't think he was just ready for that transition to like the full contact element. And this other guy just put his head down and went, "Wow!" I went, Steve, you can't see me on the audio podcast. But he just went steaming in with his arms and just battered the kid's face off. Didn't know what was going on. And then obviously went through. But then he ended up, spoilers. I'm not saying names, but he ended up then losing to somebody else who got a little bit more experience. But it's quite an interesting series.
That is one of the most interesting things that have happened to do with martial arts within the last, 20 years. Seeing the different styles face each other. Because obviously, years and years ago, kind of stayed to themselves. But then they started doing like Thai boxers fighting
Volley Tudo stuff, yeah. Did you ever see the Muhammad Ali fighting the? I'm gonna look right. I can't remember his name.
Was it?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it because all I heard was that it was terrible.
It's worth watching for the comedy of that, really. But it's interesting that they were willing to do that back then. Back then.
Didn't they change the rules?
I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that they made the rules benefit Muhammad. I don't know. I ain't watched it, so I don't want people shouting at me. But I don't know what happened. Tell me what happened, Chris.
Watch it. I'll say that much. Watch it. But then I like watching like UFC 1 and 2, like the original ones and stuff, because you just seeing how much it's come on from then. I mean, it was crazy, absolutely crazy what they were doing.
I think it's crazy because it's been going for so long now, and then there's things that are only just coming out now that are super effective that they didn't know about. Like, for example, like calf kicks. Have you seen how effective that are?
Yeah.
People are getting like 2 or 3 calf kicks, and it's just changing the dynamic of the fight. Like when McGregor fought like Poirier, like he
Yeah.
took 2 or 3 leg kicks, and he just changed the way he was fighting. He could barely walk on his leg. Stuff like obviously jiu-jitsu was big as soon as the UFC came out because that's how big it was. But wrestling's really starting to become big now. Well, it's the last 5-10 years, whatever. But wrestlers, if you look at the difference between how many UFC champions there've been for wrestling, if you add up all the other styles, it like matches where wrestling is. Like wrestling seems to be the thing when it comes to mixed martial arts.
Yeah. Have you? So is that something you've dabbled in at all at any point, or have you have you always stuck strictly to full contact kickboxing? Have you tried doing any? I mean, I've tried BJJ and stuff before, but I'm
How did that go?
shocking. I get so frustrated and like angry and stuff because like when you're trying, you're blowing out your ass after about 30 seconds because you're just trying and then everything you do, like how have they got me? Like why? How? And it's just a temptation just to.
They tell you to relax. They tell you to relax.
I know.
I think it's crazy because sometimes when I used to do kickboxing and you'd see someone come into the gym and he'd be like big of muscle and he's throwing his punches and he looks so stiff and you'd look at him and you'd think, just relax, man, just relax.
Yeah.
And then I did jiu-jitsu once and the guy's going to me, just relax, and I'm just
You can't, can you?
You just want to get him off, don't you?
Yeah. So
Wrestling
it's not
wasn't
something. It's not something you right.
I wanted to. I did as I said, when I was fighting and I was winning my fights, it was something I wanted to transition into. But then I did one jiu-jitsu session. It's something that you've got to get addicted to, isn't it? It's something you got to do like 3-4 times a week. And I just haven't got the time to get addicted to another martial arts again yet, in my opinion.
So do you think you'll go back? Do you think you'll manage to find a balance whereas you'll be able to go back to train enough to get back in the ring again?
I don't know.
Do you have the want to?
I thought I did, but I went to a kickboxing show like about a week ago because I was cornering one of my friends. And I remember whenever I used to go to shows, it used to annoy me that I wasn't fighting. And all I used to think was, I wish I was fighting. But I was sitting in the corner thinking, thank fuck I'm not fighting. Like, I was just thinking, all the stress he's going through. He's got to walk to the ring. He's got 50, 60 people who have bought tickets watching him walk to the ring. If he loses, he's going to let all of them down. Like, the amount of stress and anxiety that I used to have. And I just don't have it anymore. All I had to do was just walk to the corner, hold a bottle of water. And I feel like that's good enough for me now in the fight game. And I feel like it may be in a few years' time, if I ever get it again, then I'll go back. But I don't want to ever force it. Because you see people where they force it, don't you? And it just never goes very well. It's a serious thing to do, isn't it? Like, you can't step in a ring against. And the thing is, the person you're fighting, that's their life. That's all they care about, winning that fight. And if I'm getting in there thinking, has that client paid? Is that ad account doing is that ad account doing as good as I want it to do? Crap, did I forget to answer Chris's message? And I've got this guy who's just thinking, kill Donovan. I don't have time for that.
So I guess stepping out the ring and stepping to the other side now with running the Facebook ads and the marketing and consultancy side of things. Has it opened your eyes to a side of martial arts that you didn't really know was there before? I mean, you must come across. I mean, I'm not asking you to divulge, but you must come across some things. And I mean, God knows I do. And you're kind of like, people are doing this?
Like what?
People are doing this?
Like what?
Well, some of the. I mean, look, to each their own. I'm going to use that line. I'm not judging. Yes, I am. Yeah. Because we all do. It's human nature. You can't not judge. We just do it. Some of us are a bit more vocal about it than others. But you do see some martial arts is great for people seeing and for doing some weird things.
Especially that dojo page.
Yes. Have you seen the one he put one on today? I asked him about it actually on Instagram. He does like a video live thing, and this guy sets up some breeze blocks, right? Air quotes I was doing there for the people who can't see. And he goes, "Ugh!" and he hits, like, nudges it with his head, and it all just collapses. Like, and as the bricks are falling off, the bits that are falling off are actually breaking as they're hitting the floor. And this other guy picks one up and he's holding it to headbutt it, but he's holding it too hard and it snaps in his hands before his head hits it.
The one I don't get is, you know, when they'll have like 20 people walk at them, like one at a time,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they'll just use their hand to like move left, and the person will just hit the floor, and then the next person will do it, and the next person. And I always sit there and think, like, what conversations do they have before they do this? Like, 'cause the other person's clearly faking, but what's going through that person's head to even do that? Like, imagine if I said to you, Chris, we're going to go to the town centre, you're going to walk at me, I'm going to move my hand, and I want you to throw yourself on the floor. Like, you'd be like, no. So I don't understand where they find 15, 20 people who are lining up to just...
Yeah, I've wondered about this sort of stuff before, thought about it. I'm not like stayed up at night. How do they do the Jedi thing? No, I think it's a kind of a mix of mild brainwashing, or extreme brainwashing, and as weird as this might sound, I think there's some hypnotism going on, because I've been at events before where I've seen hardened martial artists hypnotized and they didn't even know it was being done to them. Like they do. I don't know how. I'm not a hypnotist, but they like say certain things and touch, and they set it off. I was at I was actually at a martial arts event once, and there was this guy on the front row, and for the entire section this guy was doing, he was a speaker, he was setting it up on this one guy, and he said this trigger word and clicked his finger, and the guy fell asleep, and he didn't even know that it was happening to him. He didn't know it was happening to him.
I find it so hard to believe. Like, I really do. Like, I know you were there and you saw it, Chris.
But no, hypnotism is a real thing.
I hear you. I'm just genuinely, it's one of them things where it needs to happen to me for me to believe it. Like, I'd need someone to
We're going to arrange this now for you.
We're going to have to.
You're going to have to get you running around like a chicken or something.
No, seriously, I need it to happen to me, and I need it to be recorded of it happening, and then I'll sit there and I'll go, okay, I believe it. Because whenever I hear stories, or if I saw it happen to someone else, I just think they were a scripted actor. So
I know what you mean.
Arrange this. We're going to have to arrange it.
I've seen hypnotism is like a real thing. Like, you can genuinely mess with people's heads with stuff like that. But I think it's an element of like the hypnotism and the brainwashing along, like a basic version of it is like, if, oh wow, how do I say this without offending people? Okay, I can't say it in any other way. I'm not suggesting that. Oh, wow, this is getting a bit deep. Okay, so let's take religion. Okay, different people have different thoughts on religion, but if you think from the perspective of a little child, if they're told every day that there's a being in the sky, and if you don't say the right things, you're going to go to the place that's really horrible.
Yes.
You believe that because you've been told it every day, and it becomes fact. And then, all right, to each their own what people want to do. I'm not siding on it either way. Or if every day, your parents say, don't touch the stove, it's hot, don't touch the stove, it's hot, don't touch the stove, it's hot, don't touch it. Then you go, oh, the stove's hot, I better not touch that. So I think it's like a combination of the two. I think these people are they're told it often enough, that it's real, that they perhaps get to a point where they don't want to be the only one that goes, is this shit real? Like, yeah, I better just do what everyone else is doing, otherwise I'm going to look like an idiot. Do you know what I mean? They're so far down the rabbit hole that they can't like when people tell lies often enough that they believe their own lies. I think it's a little bit like that. They get so far down the rabbit hole, and
do you know what it's part of? I think
like cults, basically.
Yeah, but
it's
I think
a cult.
It's also a part of. You look at it as well, and you think, well, that wouldn't happen to me. Like,
yeah. I know.
So have you ever seen that picture? So obviously we've had COVID, we've had religion. Now I'm going to actually talk about Nazi Germany. Have you saw that picture? Have you ever saw that?
This is getting censored. It's like even going to get. I'm not even getting the first one out, am I? Jesus Christ.
Have you ever saw that picture in Nazi Germany though, where everyone's saluting Hitler and there's one guy refusing to do it, and everybody looks at that picture and goes, "That'd be me." right? But statistically, we know that 99.9% of the people or whatever, 99% of people would just do what they need to do to not get harm to themselves and their family. And I feel like it's a bit of that. Like I look at stuff like that, the hypnotism thing, and I'm like, listen, that wouldn't happen to me. I wouldn't allow it.
When you arrange this,
when you look at cult situations as well, you look at that and you think, nope, I would not allow myself to be into that. But the truth is, most of us would. Most of us just would be hypnotized or
have you ever seen the social experiment they do where there's a guy that there's two versions of it. There's one where he goes out into the street and he stares up at the sky and points. And slowly, one by one, more and more people come and stand next to him and look up and point. And it ends up, there's loads of people all stood staring at the sky. There's nothing there.
Or the lift one.
Yeah.
Have you saw the lift one where they get in the lift and they all just face the opposite direction? So then when other people get in the lift, they just face the opposite direction. And then at the same time, all of them just turn 90 degrees and face to the right. So then that person just turns to the right. And it's just about how, like, we'll just copy what happens around.
Yeah, and there was another one where somebody went and they sort of sat in the road. Then they just went and sat down. And then loads of other people just came and started sitting down. And everyone copied everybody. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. I think the human brain is just, it's so clever and incredibly stupid at the same time. Like, we're so open. I mean, you'll know with advertising, the power of advertising and suggestion and what that can make people do. And I'd never fall foul of that. Yeah, you would. You so would.
Speaking about that, do you reckon social media has made it so more people can stand against what's normal? So, for example, something like COVID, like 80% of people listen to COVID or 90%, whatever. But then there was a 10%, weren't there, who like didn't agree. Do you think that percentage would be as high if social media wasn't a thing?
No, I don't think it would. I think you of all people understand the power of algorithms and the way it works. Like, the people that really didn't think COVID was real was shown more and more content about COVID not being real, and the ones that were ultra terrified of it were shown more and more stuff about, So I think it just created those extremes. Like, I think if Facebook didn't exist, there'd be a lot more people probably that would just kind of go, I don't know. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I just think we got extremes of it. And the thing that really irks me about it is, like, I was sat, what was I talking about? I can't remember what it was now. And it came up as an advert on my phone literally 5 minutes later. And I was like, I haven't talked about that for so long. And I'm getting an advert on my phone. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. It isn't. It's crazy and it's not crazy. It's stupidly simple, really. But that's going on around us all the time, constantly.
They say, don't they? They say that we listen to a lot more than we think we are. Who's that guy? What's now? Edward Snowden. Where he told everyone that the government was listening to more things that they should have been listening to. Like, we just don't know how much these devices like listen to us. Because
we all carry it. Look, we've all got them within arm's reach.
We've got them at all times, haven't we? Like, I don't for 1 minute think someone's just following Donovan around at all times. I'm not that interesting. But I do wonder if there's words that we just say near them that just makes things pop up. Because I've had it where, like, I'll be talking about something that there's no ad that I've ever seen on it before, and then I'll open my phone, I'll go for my Facebook, and an ad will come up for the thing I was talking about. But I wonder if that's a case of it has come up in the past, but because we weren't thinking of it, we just didn't notice the ad.
Yeah. That, like, when you buy a car, and then all you see is that car wherever you go. That's so annoying. Like, I've got this car. Oh, everyone's got this car.
Unique. I'm so unique.
Why has everyone got this car? Jesus, but it's because it's in your head, isn't it?
Yeah. So because you're thinking of it, I wonder if it's just a case of that.
Maybe. I mean, I've just ditched recently, not because I'm a conspiracy theorist or worried or anything, but I just ditched my smartwatch and gone back to just wearing a normal watch because I was just checking for notifications and stuff constantly. Like I put my phone down to have a break. Bzz, bzz, what's that? Oh no, I'm doing it on my wrist now. So I've sacked the watch off and gone back to a normal watch so that when I put my phone down, I can actually have a break from it. I'm not getting notifications and stuff all the time.
What do you think about those fitness watches, like Whoop and that?
I have had one of those and I just never used it. Like, I just didn't. It was utterly pointless. Like every now and again, I'd open up my phone and go, "Oh, look, I did 5,000 steps this morning."
Yeah, I think they are good because I think they build habits and stuff like that. But one of the things I'd worry about, and the reason why I don't have one, is because I've got a friend and he lives to it religiously, and his sleeping habits and everything have got better since he got one. But I could wake up after 3 hours of sleep and get straight to work and have a coffee, have 10 coffees, and get straight to work and force myself to do what I need to do, go to the gym, whatever it is, right? He'll wake up and let's imagine he's had a bad sleep or he's had an okay sleep, right? And he wakes up feeling okay. Then he looks at his watch and his watch tells him that he's had a really bad sleep and his body isn't recovered. And then all of a sudden, he goes
Ah,
from being in a state of, he could work, force himself to work, to, well, you know what, I should have a day off today because as my watch says, I don't have recovered, I haven't recovered. And I think that's one of the negative things that I think people don't think about. Like, yeah, it might start good habits, but if I think people start relying on that to tell them how they feel. So that's why I don't have one.
no, I don't. No, yeah, I could see that. I could see where that. Yeah, I could see where that would happen. That's crazy, isn't it? How the
But
power of suggestion.
the worst thing is, I'll see that it's doing that. That's what's happening to him. So I'll speak to him. He'll say he feels fine, whatever. He'll look at his watch. His watch will tell him that he's tired or whatever the crap. He hasn't had a good sleep, whatever. And I'll say to him, "You're letting your watch dictate how you feel." And he'll be like, "No, I'm not. I knew I was feeling crap already, and all this." And it just, I don't know. I just think it's a bit dodgy.
It is a bit when you think about it. It makes you wonder what else are being told about. Oh man, depressing. It's
Only if the
depressing.
watch tells you you're depressed, though.
And if you watch, yeah, because that is a thing that's on there, and you can do like moods and like, wow. And then of course, again, if you want to come back full circle, back to the conspiracy theorist people as well. But I mean, this isn't actually a conspiracy because it is data. It's data, isn't it? And that's that can be bought, sold, and and I guess that then could be used to push stuff to you as well. And oh man, crazy world.
They track everything. They track everything. They know everything about you.
I don't. If they're following me, they're going to be bored as shit. All I do is kick and punch in a room all day, and then do a podcast. That's literally all I do. And I didn't used to do the podcast a few weeks ago. So yeah, cool. So let's come back to you because since you're on my podcast, what you got going on at the minute? Then what's new in your world?
Just busy. We took on
I like that. Just busy.
just busy. So two things that I'm focusing on lately. So one thing is we took on like 10 clients last month, like a silly amount of clients in 1 month to take on. So I've hit a point now where we're trying to take on we took on loads of people. So we're just trying to deliver an amazing service for that many people. Obviously, it's easy to deliver an amazing service for one person, but if you take on 10 people, it's obviously a little bit harder to deliver that amazing service across the board. So I've got that. And then the other thing that I'm doing right now is I'm trying to focus on, I've got this thing that's written on my desktop. I'm trying to focus on enjoying now and focusing on like the process. And I mean that for everything that I'm doing in life, whether that's going kickboxing, whether that's going to the gym, whether that's work, whatever it is, I'm focusing on the now. So what I did was I was listening to a podcast. I think it was by, I think it was the Diary of the CEO one. And he had someone on and he was talking about the best thing you can do is, that was it. If you're not happy now, you'll never be happy now. If your happiness is in the future, when you hit a certain goal, then your happiness is always going to be in the future. And I know that myself because if I've ever hit a revenue goal, I've then said, well, I want to hit this revenue goal. If I've ever won a title fight, I've said, well, when I win the next title, then I'll be happy. Or when I beat this person, I'll be happy. Or when I beat this person, I'll be happy. And then the happiness is always in the future. So what I've tried to do now is I've tried to focus on 3 things in work that I'm just going to focus on doing every day. And those things are doing my calls successfully, making the day-to-day business how it runs better, and just there's a few things that I focus on doing today, and then tomorrow I'll focus on doing it then, and then day after I'll focus on doing it then, and those things will inevitably get me to my goal, but I'm not focused on the goal, I'm focused on what it is that I'm doing today. Quite a deep thing, but that's the mindset.
I like it because to a certain degree that translates into exactly what I'm doing now with the podcast. Like when I first started it, I didn't have a clue what I was doing with it. I just did it because I thought, I'll just do it because I listened to him. So I'll do one. And the first few are hilarious when we listen to them. Like it's like, welcome to the Kickback with Chris podcast, and today we're going to talk about karate. Karate was first developed in Japan. It's like that. Like I'm not terrified, but I'm just trying to be too perfect.
Yes.
And then I slowly give less of a shit and relax into it. But I was very much like the focus was it's got to be the biggest podcast. I've got to have these guests on, and I've got to do this. And I remember I got Alfie Lewis on, which I was like, wow, how does this even happen? This is crazy, because he'd not done any interviews in decades by that point. And then we did a Jean-Claude Van Damme special, and he shared it. Like he shared it on his social medias. I'm like, pfft. And then the numbers just went whoosh like that. And I was like, oh, I've made it. Finally, it's happened. Brilliant. Oh, then we get show sponsors and all that. And then I was sort of chasing numbers and chasing this vision of what it was going to be, but I wasn't enjoying it.
No.
And now I've come back and I haven't even looked at the stats. I don't care how many people have listened to it. No. All right, that's maybe a bit of a lie. I hope some people listen to it, but I'm not really that fussed. And although, just in case the sponsors are listening, I'm totally on the numbers, and we've got loads of listeners. But no, joking aside, I'm not bothered about who if I have this guest on, or how many people listen to it, or who shares it. It's like I want to enjoy it for me, and I actually think probably in the long run it'll be more successful if I just chill the F out and let it do its thing, and it attracts the people that like it rather than trying to make something that everybody likes, because that's kind of what I was doing, and it was never going to work. I think this is why it burnt me out after sort of 4 or 5 years, because I was trying to do too many things. I was trying to make it be too many things to too many different people, whereas now in reality this is just my podcast, and I'll talk about what I want to talk about, and if people don't like it, then they don't like it, and it doesn't matter.
Exactly. And one of the things that I realised as well, I didn't realise, my business coach told me, but something that's made us grow dramatically is we focus more on the inputs now as opposed to the outputs. And what I mean by that is you can't control how many people are going to listen to the podcast. Like, you can do things, like you can share it and you can do that and whatever, and you can have sponsors. And
I could not boost my post.
No, you boost your posts, yeah. No,
I won't boost my posts.
No, but you could do these things that obviously have a little bit of a change, right? But the main thing that you can have control over is how many times a week are you going to do the podcast, or how many times a month are you going to try and do the podcast, and try and stick to that for the longest period of time you can possibly stick to it. And then over time, you're just going to grow. That's going to happen, right? As what a lot of people do is they stress themselves on focusing what the output is. So how many views am I getting? How many of this am I getting? How many of this am I getting? But you can't control whether or not people watch the podcast. All you can control is whether or not you film the podcast. So it's about making that switch to focusing on what you can control, which is the input, and filming the podcast itself, as opposed to trying to focus on how many people view it, or how many people press like, or how many people, whatever metrics it is that you follow. Like, and that's what I'm trying to do in my YouTube videos as well. Like, I'm making YouTube videos to try and help people, but I'm trying to focus on doing one every week. I'm not trying to focus on how many people have subscribed, how many people have liked, how many people have booked a call from the YouTube videos, or how many people have done this, or how many people have commented, or whatever it is. I'm trying to focus on just making a YouTube video every week. And in 52 weeks' time, I'll be in a better position than I am today. And in 200 weeks' time, I'll be in a much better position than I am today, as long as I make that YouTube video every week. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I know he's a bit of a controversial character, I guess, to a certain degree. But have you ever watched any of Ali Law's YouTube videos? I mean, he's pretty. He's one of these people that does like the overnight. Well, he used to do the overnight challenges, like they sleep in IKEA and hide and stuff, or he'd climb up something high, and he made all these videos. And he was saying when he first started YouTube, like for the first 2 years, there was like next to nothing. Like it was just kept on doing it. And he said, it was like saying how his brother used to get really annoyed because his mates used to take the piss out of him because he was like, "Hey guys, I'm back on," like that. And it was like, he's got like 57 views. Who does he think he is? Right, guys. So this is and he said, no, but he said he believed in his head, and he just kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And then, do you remember there was a period where everyone was paranoid about these killer clowns?
Yes.
he made like a parody parkour killer clown video, and he got something like 16 million views in a week or something nuts, to the point where he was able to sack off his job and go into doing YouTube full time because of that one video. And he was saying, like, if he'd have stopped before that and hadn't stuck to the vision of it's going to work, then he wouldn't now be living in Dubai and hanging out with Ryan Taylor and all these other YouTubers that seemingly just make money out of being whoever they are, you know, like these, like Jake Paul and this. What actually do they do now? They're just Jake Paul that's the business, isn't it? You know,
that must be hard though. That must be hard. I think it's, well, you said it yourself when you were used to be doing the podcast. You felt like you were kind of not being yourself, and that's what they do every day on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, on everything, every platform that they constantly video themselves.
Yeah.
They are being themselves times 10 constantly. That must get tiring.
Yeah, but if you're making millions out of it, I suppose you learn to live with it, don't you? I suppose.
So you'd rather cry in your Lambo than what, like a Toyota or something, don't they?
Probably. I think on that note, that's going to be the title now.
You'd rather cry in
a Lambo than in my Toyota. I'm going to call it that. That's the episode title. I like it. Cool. Well, it's been fun. It's been nearly an hour, but I've enjoyed it, which is the important thing. But before we close, last couple of minutes, because you've been gracious enough to come on and do this, I'm going to turn it over to you. So tell people, they're going to listen to this going, who is this guy? What does he actually do? He's not talked about it. But if you want to share a little bit about what it is that you do and how people can find out more about it, the floor is yours.
So what we do is we help martial arts schools grow. We build systems for them that basically put members into their schools. But I hate doing stuff like this where it's like, and come learn from me or whatever. But if you want to see a little bit about what we do, I've got a YouTube channel called Donovan Wint. It's got loads of free content on there. I literally had a message today from someone called James. I'm not going to say his last name, but it's James. And he said he's took on 20 members. No, he's had 24 bookings just using my YouTube free content.
There you go.
If that doesn't say it's helpful, I don't know what does. So I'm just going to tell you about my free content. It's on YouTube, and then you can also add me on Facebook if you want to.
Yeah. I can't say fairer than that, because, you know, I'm old school. I've been around the block, and, you know, I've come across a lot of experts and consultants and people, you know, over that time, and there are some absolute, let's just leave it at that. And I don't count you as being one of those, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have you on the podcast. Because he's honestly, I'm not kissing his ass just because he's looking at me down the computer screen. But you know, he's a genuine guy, and obviously running a business, and that's, you know, there's always that. Well, not always that transaction there monetary, because obviously you've got the YouTube channel, but you are genuinely interested. Yes, obviously you're earning a living, it's a business, but you are actually genuinely interested, whereas a lot of these people, well, I'm guessing you are either that or you're a damn good actor.
I'm a brilliant actor. I did actually, to be fair, get a distinction star in drama.
Did you?
Yeah, so maybe I'm just
so maybe you're just lying to everybody. Maybe it's just another one of these charlatans. But no, joking aside, you know, you are genuinely interested. Like I use mine as an example. I have full disclosure. I hired Donovan to come in for the day to help me with something, and he definitely did more than a day's work, because for about a week afterwards, I was like, how do I do this? I can't do it. How do I do this? Oh, it's just like, right, I'll do it for you. I'll sort it for you. And I'm not saying he's going to do that for everybody, but to me, that just demonstrated somebody that actually cared about his clients, and, you know, not just, oh, well, you've paid me now. Screw you. See you later. Bye.
I try to be as ethical as physically possible. It allows me to sleep at night. It also means if anyone, because people say negative stuff about everyone, don't they? But it also means that if anyone says anything negative about me, it's like water off a duck's back. Like, it just doesn't bother me, because I've got nothing. I can sleep well at night because nothing's true. Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh, no, I like that now for the show name. I can sleep well at night because nothing's true. I like that as well.
You got two good ones to pick.
I do like to use ones that confuse people, which is why I use what I used in the last one, because Wonky September and Don't Send Me a Postcard. Because I mentioned both of those in the podcast, but you had to listen to all of it to get it. Oh, mate. I don't know. I don't want to just call it Donovan Wint Talks About Facebook, because that's like...
I don't want you to either. Call it something interesting. Either what was the cry? You'd rather
crying in Lambo than in Toyota. I think I might go with that one because that's quite cool.
Someone who's got a Toyota is fuming right now.
But they're also probably agreeing as well. Because would they really rather to cry in the Toyota or in the Lambo?
I'd rather cry in the Lambo personally.
Totally. There's a lot of things I'd probably rather do in a Lambo than a Toyota. In fact, most things.
Then again, they look a bit small, don't they? Lamborghinis, they look a bit tight. So at least in a Toyota, you'd be comfortable.
If it depends which one it is, really. We're talking Corolla or...
I haven't got as many as you, Chris.
Because you drive in a Lambo, don't you? That's right. Hey, I've seen yours, Mo. You got quite smart, mate. Anyway, let's not go down that road. Anyway, it's been a pleasure having you on for this last hour. Thank you for going on. Just to mention as well that one of the reasons why I wanted Donovan on, besides him being a stand-up bloke, is that he was actually the last guest on the last episode. I said that in a really weird way. Basically, he was my last guest on the previous format, and I just thought it'd be really cool to have the last guest on the shit format be the first guest on the awesomely improved format. So
and I think we smashed it.
I think we did. That or we bored everybody to tears. I doubt it.
We had a good time. We focused on the inputs, not the outputs.
We did, didn't we? We've put the world to rights. We've solved COVID and everything. We talked about hypnotism. We've talked about dodgy breeze blocks, Lambos.
Nazi Germany.
Yeah. We've covered it. We've covered it all. But we did talk about a bit of martial arts, I guess.
For about 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes. Anyway, mate, it's been a pleasure. I'm gonna leave it there. Otherwise, we're gonna get started again. Hopefully, have you on again soon.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Maybe start your own podcast. I'll come on yours.
Maybe one day. Not yet.
Not yet. No, you don't need any more plates. Nice one, mate. Catch you soon.
Thanks.